Okay, so let's set the scene. We're talking early 1990s India and election day. Well, it wasn't exactly the celebration of democracy you might picture.
No, not at all. It was much rougher. Think more like a street brawl, honestly.
Right. You had voters trying to get to the polls, but they were literally dodging fake ballots being stuffed into boxes.
And sometimes worse. You had these strongmen, local toughs, basically practicing what everyone called booth capturing.
Meaning they're take over a polling station.
Exactly, snatching it in broad daylight. It sounds wild, but it was happening.
So this wasn't just a few isolated incidents. This was a real crisis for the democratic process.
Oh, absolutely systemic. You had politicians throwing cash around, using their influence, and there was zero accountability. Rigging tallies wasn't even hidden sometimes.
And the election commission, the body supposed to oversee all this.
It was pretty quiet back then, just an office, really, in
Right.
Delhi's Nirvatan Sadan, filing papers mostly ignored while the real power plays happened elsewhere. Faith in the whole system was, well, hanging by a thread.
The system sounds completely broken. But then, things started to shift.
Yeah.
December 12th, 1990.
Just before noon. That's when Tirunelli Narayana Iyer Seshan walked in. Tien Seshan.
A bureaucrat,
Right?
known for being, let's say, no frills.
That's a good way to put it. Very precise, very direct. He became the 10th chief election commissioner, coming straight from the planning commission into this massive institutional challenge.
So what was his first move? Did he ease into it?
Not Seshan. Minutes after taking the oath, literally minutes, he gets the secretariat staff together
Okay.
and he lays it out. His voice apparently was just laced with precision. He said something like, "The world watches our elections in awe. We will not let India down."
Wow. So message received loud and clear.
Absolutely. It was a signal. The era of just letting things slide over a taskmaster had definitely arrived.
So that's what we're diving into today, right?
Yeah.
How this one person, really armed with just the existing rules and a whole lot of determination.
Managed to clean up what people often called India's greatest show on earth, the elections.
Yeah, turning it from this chaotic brawl back into something credible. He made believers out of skeptics.
It's fascinating how he did it. He didn't start with, complex legal arguments. He went straight for the jugular, the most visible, ugliest problem.
Which was the booth capturing we talked about.
Exactly. Especially rampant in northern states. Bihar, Uttar Pradesh. It had turned voting into this spectator sport for the powerful and the corrupt.
It still boggles the mind, just physically taking over polling stations. So how do you even stop that? Brute force.
Well, yes and no. The key was security, real security. He demanded central police forces, paramilitary forces, to guard the polling stations properly.
But getting those forces wouldn't have been easy, I imagine, the central
It
government.
was reluctant, very reluctant. Providing those troops meant taking power away from local control, potentially upsetting local political interests, so they dragged their feet.
So Seshan demanded, they stalled. What happened next? This is where his resolve really showed, wasn't it?
It really was. He didn't just negotiate endlessly or back down. He went straight to the Supreme Court.
To force the government's hand.
Essentially, yes. He sought a ruling that would compel the government to provide the necessary forces, arguing it was essential for fulfilling the Commission's constitutional mandate for free and fair elections.
And the court agreed.
It did. It gave that crucial nudge, as some call it, but it was more than a nudge. It was a legal affirmation. It basically said, yes, during elections, the Election Commission has operational control over security forces deployed for poll duty.
That's huge. It means the EC could deploy forces where they thought necessary, not where the government or local politicians preferred.
Precisely. It temporarily took law enforcement related to elections out of the hands of those who might benefit from, let's say, looking the other way. A major power shift, all justified by the need for fair polls.
And did it work? Did booth capturing actually decline?
Dramatically. By the time Seshan left office in 1996, it wasn't completely gone, perhaps, but it was a shadow of its former self. A relic, really. Fading fast.
Okay, so securing the physical polling station was step one. What came next?
The human element. The observers. You see, there was already a system of sending senior civil servants to observe elections.
But they weren't very effective.
Not really. They were mostly passive. They'd watch, take notes, file reports that often just gathered dust. Seshan completely supercharged the system.
Wow. What did he change?
He pulled these high-ranking officials out of their regular jobs and basically told them, You are not just observing, you are enforcing. You are my eyes and ears, and you have authority.
So he empowered them, made them active watchdogs instead of passive note-takers.
Exactly. And suddenly, these observers got bold. Their reports became sharp, actionable intelligence, like a whistleblower's tip, you know? Seshan backed them up, gave them grit. Politicians started to actually dread their arrival.
They became figures to be reckoned with, not just ignored.
Absolutely. There's a great story, almost comical, that perfectly captures this shift in attitude.
Well, let's hear it.
Okay, picture this. Dusty small town, intense by-election campaign. A candidate, worn out, is trying to grab a quick nap.
Standard campaign stuff.
Right. Then his gatekeeper rushes in, panicked, saying, "Someone from the Sunday Observer is outside asking questions."
The newspaper.
Well, that's the thing. The candidate immediately hears Observer and thinks,
It's one of Seshan's election police.
yeah,
Come to nail him for breaking the rules.
exactly. He panics. This guy, maybe a local bigwig used to throwing his weight around, just bolts out the back door, slippers flapping, heart pounding, terrified of this EC official who...
It's actually just a journalist from the Sunday Observer newspaper.
Precisely. It's funny, but it shows the psychological impact. Suddenly the rules weren't suggestions anymore. They had teeth, real teeth. And fear, frankly, became a motivator for following them.
That fear must have been crucial for the next step, enforcing the Model Code of Conduct, the MCC.
Ah, yes, the MCC. Before Seshan, this was, well, a bit of a joke, honestly.
Just a dusty rulebook.
Pretty much. It had been around since 1962, outlining ethical behavior, things candidates shouldn't do, like using government machinery for campaigning or making inflammatory speeches. But it was treated like a polite suggestion. Optional etiquette.
So how did Seshan make it mandatory? He couldn't just pass a law, could he?
No, and that's the brilliance or perhaps the audacity of it. He didn't change the MCC's legal status. Instead, he used the Election Commission's existing constitutional power under Article 324.
The power to ensure free and fair elections.
Exactly. He basically declared unilaterally that the EC would enforce the MCC. And if parties or candidates violated it significantly, he threatened to use his ultimate power.
Which was?
To countermand the poll, to cancel the election in that constituency, or even refuse to recognize the result.
Wow. So he turned this polite suggestion into a live wire by threatening the ultimate sanction, invalidating the entire election.
Precisely. He weaponized the potential consequences. Suddenly, violating the MCC wasn't just bad form, it could cost you the election itself.
That's a game changer. Any examples of him actually doing this?
Oh, yes. A really stark one was in 1992. A chief minister, a state's top elected official, was campaigning for his son in a by-election.
Okay.
And right there, mid-rally, he starts announcing brand new government welfare schemes, essentially using state resources and promises to directly influence votes for his son, a clear MCC violation.
What did Seshan do?
He pulled the plug, canceled the entire poll, just scrapped it. Imagine the shockwaves. A chief minister flaunting the rules, and the EC just says, nope, election canceled.
That sent a message that no one was above the rules, not even powerful incumbents.
Absolutely. And it showed the EC was truly impartial, willing to take on ruling parties who were often the main culprits. Then there was the governor incident in '93.
Right. Governor Gulshar Ahmed of Himachal Pradesh. What happened there?
He flew to his home state, Satna, in Madhya Pradesh, where his son was contesting an election. That's fine. But then he started using his official perks as government cars, staff, the whole machinery, essentially as campaign tools for his son.
Another blatant misuse of public office for private political gain.
Totally. And Seshan didn't just issue a quiet warning. He issued a very public, very strong censure. The political fallout was so intense
That the governor had to resign.
he was forced to resign. Think about that. The Election Commission, through enforcing the MCC, effectively forced the resignation of a governor, a high constitutional figure. It established that fair play, as defined by the EC, could trump even the traditional privileges of high office.
That's incredible external pressure. But he also worked on strengthening the system internally, right?
Yeah.
Like with voter IDs.
Yes, that was fundamental. He championed voter identity cards relentlessly. He saw them as the key weapon against ghosts on the rolls, fake or duplicate voters.
That sounds sensible, but I bet it wasn't easy.
Not at all. He had to fight state governments tooth and nail. They resisted the cost, the administrative hassle, and maybe losing a bit of local control over who was registered to vote. But he persisted until they became standard.
And he also protected the commission's own staff.
Crucially important. When officials, even senior IAS officers assigned to election duty, messed up or were negligent, Seshan didn't just reprimand them, he fought battles, again, sometimes going to the Supreme Court, to ensure the commission had the power to discipline election staff independently.
Protecting its own muscle from political interference.
Exactly, ensuring the referees couldn't be easily pressured by the players.
What was the atmosphere like inside the Election Commission building near Vachan Sedan during his time?
Oh, it transformed.
Huh.
Seshan apparently detested clutter. Piles of dusty files vanished. Corridors were kept spotless. Clocks had to be perfectly on time.
Sounds orderly. Maybe a bit intense.
Intense is putting it mildly. Staff were reportedly terrified of him. There's stories, maybe exaggerated, maybe not, of people literally scattering like startled pigeons when he did his rounds, diving into restrooms or pretending to be incredibly busy.
So immense respect, but also genuine fear.
It seems so. Perhaps that level of discipline was what was needed to break decades of institutional sluggishness and complacency.
But this concentration of power in one person, this very singular, forceful approach, that couldn't last forever, could it?
No, and it didn't. It inevitably attracted political pushback. The government grew uncomfortable with this one individual wielding so much unchecked authority.
Which led to the change in the commission's structure.
Precisely. In October 1993, the government appointed 2 additional election commissioners, GVG Krishnamurthy and MS Gill, expanding the commission from 1 member to 3.
Clearly a move to dilute Seshan's power, right? To make it a committee decision rather than one man's decree.
That was definitely the interpretation, the whisper everywhere. They were trying to clip his wings, force him into a consensus model.
How did Seshan, the ultimate taskmaster, react to having his authority formally shared?
His response became legendary. Apparently, with a bit of a wry smile, he quipped, "If they clip my wings, I'll run like an ostrich."
Ah, defiant even then.
Absolutely. And while legally his solo power was indeed curtailed, he adapted. He pushed the now 3-member body forward with the same energy. But that change itself became a huge part of his legacy.
How so?
Because it institutionalized the multi-member commission we have today. It ensured that while Seshan's impact was revolutionary, the system wouldn't depend on finding another Seshan. It created a more resilient collegial structure for the long term.
That makes sense. So summing up his legacy, it's huge. He wasn't just an administrator. He was, like you said, the guardian who pulled the vote back from the chaos.
And his impact went beyond just elections. His uncompromising stance, his demonstration that rules could be enforced against the powerful, inspired others. It created a ripple effect, encouraging a search for that kind of spine in other state institutions.
It really does make you think about leadership in institutions.
It does. It brings to mind what Dr. B.R. Ambedkar said way back during the Constituent Assembly debates. He warned, very wisely,
What does he say?
something to the effect that, however good a constitution may be, it is sure to turn out bad, because those who are called to work it happen to be a bad lot.
Implying the people matter more than the text.
Exactly. But then he added the crucial flip side. However bad a constitution may be, it may turn out to be good if those who are called to work it happen to be a good lot.
And Seshan, in this context, was the embodiment of that good lot.
You could certainly argue that. He took the existing framework and breathed life and maybe fear into it. Under his watch, Indian democracy regained credibility. That phrase, free and fair elections, started to sound less like an aspiration and more like a reality.
So even today, years after his passing in 2019, his influence is still felt.
Absolutely. His shadow looms large over every election. Things aren't perfect. India's elections are incredibly vast and complex. There are always challenges. But the fundamental expectation of fairness, the institutional strength he built, that remains.
He really showed that one determined person, just using the rules already there, can fundamentally change the game.
He absolutely did. In a world that often doubts democracy's effectiveness, his story is a powerful reminder. One resolute individual can, quite literally, rewrite the script for a nation.
Which leaves us with a thought, doesn't it? Looking around today, are there other pillars of the state, other institutions, that might be ready for their own Seshan-like figure? A dedicated, unyielding enforcer to shake things up?
That is indeed a provocative question to ponder. Where else is that kind of focused, determined reform needed right now?